Okay, so we are now recording on this slightly different setup. Again, I swear we do not have the same setup 3 weeks in a row.
No, absolutely not.
Maybe one day we will. So as you can tell by the lack of
autism.
Yeah, Colin is not present this week.
No offense to autistic children. We love them all, but Colin is a special autistic child.
He's worse than I am, and that says a lot. Yeah, Colin is away on a personal errand.
Which I would like to talk about for a minute.
Okay.
So, our audience should send thoughts, prayers, good wishes, whatever they feel like, towards Colin and his family. His wife, her pet iguana died, and they're burying it right now. So it's a very emotional time for him and his family. So do you know if they plan on replacing the iguana, or are they gonna take the relationship up a step and move on to a snake or something?
I think they're going to be saving about 15% on their last pet and getting a gecko.
Buy a comic that might cost more than a dime. Come meet the brothers who are here to waste your time.
There's just the two of us here. Do we want to yeet into the news like Colin yeeted out of this thing 2 days ago?
We should probably do the whole classic, welcome back to the Dimecomicbros podcast.
That is an old classic from the vault.
Yes. The vault that's open pretty much every week.
Yeah, that we only started like 9 months ago. Big vault.
More than that.
Deep vault. It's been almost a year.
We're coming up on a year.
We're getting
next
there.
month.
Okay,
and we still can't figure out how to set up the microphone.
Yeah, we're very professional. I mean, hey, usually when it's done, nobody knows. Until we lampshade the fact that we suck at what we do.
Right? We joke about it, but we're not joking.
No.
So we've mentioned our missing host, our ghost host. But this week, you are joined by Spencer and Jacob. And we are here to report the comic news of the week to you.
We are not nude. Not this time.
Not this time.
If
Colin was here.
It has to be all three.
Right. 3 nude news dudes.
Yes. So we have an article from DCComics.com. I think this was kind of the big announcement of the week. HBO Max and Cartoon Network announced a pair of new animated series this morning featuring DC's two biggest heroes, Batman and Superman. Batman Caped Crusader stems from the creative minds of Bruce Timm, J.J. Abrams, and Matt Reeves and promises a fresh take on the Dark Knight and his popular rogues gallery. In contrast, My Adventures with Superman will bring youthful energy to the world of the Man of Steel in a new animated series aimed at kids and families. We are beyond excited to be working together to bring this character back to tell engrossing new stories in Gotham City, said Tim, Abrams and Reeves in a joint statement. The series will be thrilling, cinematic, and evocative of Batman's noir roots while diving deeper into the psychology of these iconic characters. We cannot wait to share this new world. Batman Caped Crusader has received a straight-to-series order by HBO Max and Cartoon Network. Produced by Warner Bros. Animation, My Adventures with Superman introduces us to 20-somethings Clark Kent, the bright and driven Lois Lane, and their best friend Jimmy Olsen as they begin to discover who they are and everything they can accomplish together as an investigative reporting team at the Daily Planet. These are from some long sentences. Mm-hmm. Promising a mix of action, comedy, and romance, the new series has received a 2-season order from HBO Max and Cartoon Network, as announced this morning by Warner Bros. Head of Kids and Family Programming, Amy Friedman. There we go. It's been a great partnership working with Cartoon Network and HBO Max to bring more DC superheroes to the platform in new and interestingly creative ways, summed up Register. This is the first animated Superman series in many years, and we want to tell our Superman story through the trio of Clark, Lois, and Jimmy, whose relationship dynamic will allow for rich, serialized, and engaging stories as we explore their lives as individuals and their journey together as friends. Big article.
Very big. So big.
I'm kind of looking forward to both of these, but I have a couple hesitations. What are you thinking?
I'm happy that there's new animated shows for Batman and Superman, just like my childhood. So the new generation can have the same thing I growed up with, and that is good.
Yeah.
I'll probably watch the Batman one. I've never been much of a Superman guy, which is kind of funny and cringe because of this week's main topic. But no, yeah. I'll be interested. I'll try him.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm looking forward to Caped Crusader because the teaser image and the noir and the all that shit is real exciting for me because I think that's something we still, even probably with BTAS being the strongest entry, still don't do enough of that.
Right?
But the fact that it is a whole new thing is kind of annoying. Like, it's not a big deal, but the fact that there's so I mean, the DC animated universe has a lot of room left. They're between like the end of Justice League into like Batman Beyond. There's this big time period. There's a lot of Batman material to go there that I think a lot of people have been kind of clamoring for more content in that universe. Admittedly, some of the movie entries lately have been pretty rough, so maybe they just want to keep it separate. But it's like, that is looking pretty cool, and it's a Superman show for kids. Like I'll probably check it out and be like, this is not for me, but it's cute. Whatever.
I don't know. I think I'll be more into it than other new shows. It'll be easy to keep up with and follow along with, and it's not like the rest of my typical TV intake of dark and gritty and adult.
I mean, that's true, but when it says family programming, they mean like this is gonna be like a young Seven, like maybe everyone type. Like this is gonna be made for like 10-year-olds at max.
Which is fair. Fine. I mean, the animated series I think was TV PG, so it seems a little more childish than what we growed up with, but
yeah,
I'll take it. I'll try it.
Yeah, definitely check out both.
I'm surprised that this was included in the news, but Titans Season 3 has been announced to be coming to HBO Max in August of the year of our Lord 2021.
I mean, it's large enough. I mean, it's more like me following HBO Max as a platform than it is me caring about Titans. I'm gonna watch it, but that's more out of curiosity than actually wanting to.
I don't remember.
Are you gonna be talking about that this week? Because I know you were like, oh.
I don't think I even finished the pilot yet. I keep falling asleep.
I can't imagine why.
On my TV, so. Because I get up at 3:30 in the morning?
No. It's because Titans is shit.
Oh, okay.
So, I have an article from Variety.com. The force is strong with Dave Filoni, and so it seems is Twitter. Last summer, Lucasfilm quietly promoted the executive producer and frequent writer and director of The Mandalorian to executive creative director for the entire studio, a rep confirms with Variety. But the company didn't update its website with Filoni's new title until this week, which would be 2021, which is when it began to percolate and then explode across Reddit and Twitter as if the promotion had just happened. This is I actually found pretty funny because like a lot of the stars of like the actors and the voice actors are like, oh dang, that's great, cool, Dave, and then everyone's like, wait a minute, this was actually last year and they just didn't announce it publicly. But big win.
I mean, you can't figure it out by watching anything Star Wars and his name's plastered all over it.
I mean, like he's always been plastered over, but like having the official, he's basically right underneath Kathleen Kennedy right now, which is exactly where he belongs.
Makes sense to me. His name is on everything Star Wars.
That man and his Stetson, single-handedly kind of saving Star Wars.
Yes.
He has always been George's heir. He was the one who was groomed to be George's heir, and then they decided not to do that, but now he's kind of getting his dues in, which is pretty cool.
We got a new trailer for Batman The Long Halloween Part 2 coming to digital July 27th and physical release August 10th.
So I've kind of come around on this. I know when the first part was announced and we got a trailer, I was kind of eh. So I have weird feelings on DC animated films as a whole because they're messy, and I know I bitch about that sort of stuff all the time. So we have there was the interconnected universe, which is kind of over now, but this one might be a part of it now because it ended in Apocalypse War, and then it got rebooted, and technically it was announced that Superman Man of Tomorrow was the first one in this new line, which I thought was killer. I didn't think it was gonna be when it was announced. It looked like I was gonna hate it. I loved it. Then we had is a Batman one. It doesn't seem to be connected. It's got a different art style, whatever. That came out a couple of months ago. It was fine. We have Justice League. It was like Justice Society World War II or whatever. It's in the same animated style. It's Wonder Woman and the Justice Society, punching Nazis,
Mm-hmm.
which looks to be pretty interesting. I haven't watched it yet. That just came out. And now we have the two Batman Long Halloweens, which are in the same art style, which generally speaking for these sort of movies means they're in the same universe. Which is weird, but this is also so it's earlier career Batman as well, so it kind of fits in with, you know, oh, new Superman and oh, new Batman. So I don't know, but this new animation template gives me weird vibes, but I kind of like it because for these movies for Long Halloween, I was hoping that they weren't gonna try to imitate Tim Sale's art because I think that's where the other adaptations have kind of not failed. Like we had The Dark Knight Returns, which is equally as good as the book. It emulates Frank Miller's style really well, but it does it in animation, and it functions really well, and it's nice and strong. We had Under the Red Hood, which kind of adapted Jim Lee's art and such, and it was pretty good. Most people consider that to be an easier, digestible little nugget rather than, you know, actually reading the comic. Like, you know, when we have like Gotham by Gaslight and like Superman Red Sun, and they're all over the place in terms of what is where in it. Okay, are these shared? Are these ones not? Some of the ones that are adaptations of a book are in the shared universe of movies, so it just confuses me, to be honest, because I don't think they have a plan. But this art style, while being really simple and really clean and kind of cartoony childish, I think actually contrasts well with the story that they're going for. It doesn't feel like they're trying to just imitate what Tim Sale did with his caricatures.
Right.
And it has me more interested than it was originally. It's going to be weird because this movie's going to be rated R, but it has this style that definitely looks like it could pass on like Cartoon Network for like 10-year-olds.
Right.
I don't know. I'm not hyped, but I'm more interested. I have an article from comicbook.com. One of DC's most popular Elseworlds tales is officially getting the film treatment, as Warner Bros. Home Entertainment confirms that an Injustice animated movie will be the next title in the studio's slate of animated films. Though little in the way of details have been revealed, it will seemingly spin out of the popular video game series and comic series of the same name. A sneak peek of the film will be available as part of the upcoming home release for Batman The Long Halloween Part 2. No other details surrounding the project, including a voice cast or release date, are available at this time.
So, this is very shortly after the release of the new Mortal Kombat movie, which has done fairly well for itself.
Yeah.
Seems a little sus.
I wouldn't call it sus. I'd say they're literally just going, "Hey, we can do that too."
Exactly.
And they're all owned by WB. So, this I think is interesting for me because have you played both of the games?
I've played part of the second one.
Okay. So,
but I beat the first one easy.
Yeah.
So,
Easy
GG.
I really like both of the games, and I think the comic series have been absolutely stellar. In particular, to recover from some of the not so wonderful parts of the games.
And it's really painful because the two omnibuses of the comics, like collecting most of what's out right now,
yeah,
is like really cheap.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to do it, but I can't.
Yeah. Tom Taylor is a king.
Yes.
He's been killing it. So I'm wondering, my initial thing is this going to be an in-continuity whatever, or is it just going to be an adaptation? Because those could go two very different directions. Because it could be, it's just watching the cinematics of the first game, which is like the major events that most people know about or are interested in, of, you know, Superman going bad and maybe punching Joker, whatever the fuck. Or is it going to be somewhere squeezed in there, or like a POV change, like I believe it was Year Zero. The ones that just finished wrapping up were mostly told from Harley's perspective. Like I might be wrong on that. I haven't read them yet. But like is it gonna be some other point of view of the terms of events, or is it gonna be a sequel? Because we don't know where Injustice 3 is going right now. So that's where my curiosity is. I'll watch it. I've watched most of their animated movies, even though they're very 50-50. Either they're amazing or they're shit. So,
yeah, freaking $70 for the first.
That's not bad.
Omni.
The year collections are like $25 a pop, and those are really nice. They're like nice, like Hellboy sized omnibuses.
Mm-hmm. Basically, what you were saying is how unique is this movie gonna be? I would like to see maybe a little bit from the games to ground it, set the stage, but then have strong influences from the comics. And if there is something that like a flat note from either of them to change that, I think that would be the best way to go about it.
Probably. I have an exclusive from HollywoodReporter.com. The Batgirl movie project has found its director, or rather, in this case, its directors. Idil El Arabi and Bilal Falal, please excuse me in completely and utterly butchering those names. The duo behind the 2020 hit Bad Boys for Life have closed a deal to steer Warner Bros. DC feature centering on Barbara Gordon, the daughter of Gotham City Police Commissioner James Gordon. Christina Hodson, who wrote Bumblebee and is in the Warner Bros. Fold with her screenplay of Birds of Prey and The Flash, penned the script for what is being planned as a movie for HBO Max. With Batgirl, we hope to take the audience on a fun ride and see a different side of Gotham, said Burr. Christina's script is crackling with spirit. Adil and Bilal have an excited, I cannot talk today, and joyous energy, which is infectious, making them the perfect filmmakers for this Bat project. Nice. And I'm just psyched I get to be a part of the DC universe, which is super cool. I'm kind of hyped for this, actually. I don't like Bad Boys for Life, but I like the energy that the movie had.
I cringed really hard when you said that.
Really?
Ugh.
So I'm not a big fan of the franchise, period, so I wasn't that hyped for the movie at all. I enjoyed the directing, though. I just don't like... That type of movie doesn't tickle my fancy. It never really has. Even as a dumb meathead boy, still never really did my thing, but I did enjoy the direction, the overall energy that it had. It made the movie bearable for me. I'm just happy the thing's moving forward with people attached to it.
It's still kind of a tough track record. You mentioned Bumblebee, which I've heard mixed things about.
Hey, it's insanely better than the rest of the Transformers. That means a lot.
That's not hard to do.
Bumblebee was pretty solid.
I haven't seen it yet.
Birds of Prey
was good.
Was well received.
Right.
Did not make money. And then The Flash we don't know about yet.
Right. So, I mean, track record's improving. So, sure.
I just want to watch a Batgirl movie, and I'm so glad that the devil is no longer attached to it. Which we all knew was coming anyway. It's weird. They're planning it as a movie for HBO Max. That's a little strange.
I can't wait for the memes. I stocked up on a couple of comics by your favorite director. Yes. And so I'll be reviewing those shortly, and I just can't wait for you to throw out everything I say because of who wrote it.
No, he's a pretty solid writer. I think his directing stuff is pretty 50-50. It's kind of weird. Usually I'm not a big fan of retroactively going back and looking and seeing all the cracks, but I think going back and watching the original Avengers, the cracks really show with age. Just my opinion. But I don't like that movie very much anymore. And yeah, it came out when I was 11, so I lost my and it was really important. Nobody's denying that.
Right.
But visually and directing wise, it was pretty fucking lackluster. It looked like a goddamn sitcom.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah. But anyways, away from Ginger Devil. That's the end of the news. I don't know. A big explosive Batgirl movie would be fun. Just have some fun. Go like Batgirl a Burnside type, late New 52. Have fun with it.
Right.
Give her the bright purple suit and just go crazy. Main topic?
Sure.
All right, comrade. Superman Red Sun is a 3-issue prestige format comic book miniseries published by DC and released under the Elseworld imprint in 2003. It was written by Mark Millar and illustrated by, penciled by Dave Johnson, Andrew Robinson, Walden Pong, and Killian Plunkett. A lot of pencilers. So this is what literally the premise was. What if Superman had been raised in the Soviet Union? So what if Superman but communism? So we have Superman crashes in the Soviet Union. He actually crashes in the Ukraine. Gets raised by some farmers, then is yeeted into the government. And he acts as the Übermensch. He is the Superman. He's like the not the enforcer. That's a bit too strong a word. He's a little bit below Stalin. He's like Stalin's like right hand boy, basically. Like,
Until
literally.
Stalin dies, in
Yes.
which case he becomes the Soviet leader.
Yeah. Which, just on that note, that's the major change that the animated movie did.
Really?
Superman killed Stalin.
What?
I actually think the movie's better, but I'm gonna clip all that out.
Technical difficulties.
Yeah, so over the 3 issues, we get to see 3 different time periods. I'm not going to list the years off the top of my head. So we have Superman taking over as the leader of the Soviet Union from Stalin. Stalin just dies. He got poisoned at a party or whatever. Superman is hesitant to take over the Soviet Union because he's like, hey, I'm just here to help people. I'm not here to like lead. I don't like government. And then he sees what's going on with the people and how much they need a leader, and he's like, all right, it. And he just becomes Superman, but all the communism.
If he openly declares himself to be a communist, we take his word for it.
So we jump forward in the next issue to some 20-ish years later. We have Batman doing an anarchy. So this Batman is his parents were killed by an agent of the KGB. So he blames Superman for all of his problems. I personally feel like there's some BVS got some influence out of this book in that aspect. It gives the same vibes, like the direct link to Superman type agitation. But this Batman is basically just Batman, but with a fucking hat.
It's my favorite Batman outfit.
Are you kidding? Like, really?
It's one of my favorites.
It's definitely up there.
It's one of my top 5 at least.
It's very he's got like a big old it's like a canvas and like tactical gear outfit, and he's just got a freaking what are those hats called?
Ooh.
It's not a deer stalker, but he's got a fuzzy hat.
Dog gear.
Something like that. He's got a big old fuzzy hat on top because it's cold because it's Russia.
I have one of those hats and I love that thing.
Yeah, they're warm.
It's one of my favorites.
So we have the ideological difference. To dig into my political knowledge here is essentially we have an anarchist going against a tanky. So Superman, being like the head of the Soviet Union, is getting a little bit detached from the people. He's living life, making statues and stuff. He thinks he's still doing the right thing, and he's sending out people to help the country, but he doesn't do as much of the work himself as he probably should be. So he's like getting detached from the people. So he's becoming very much so what most people think of when they think of the Soviet Union and or communism, of like the government just kind of doing shit. As the meme goes, when the government does stuff, it's socialism. And when the government does all the stuff, it's communism, which isn't actually how economics works, but for the meme. And then we have Batman, who follows under a similar like branch of the political tree, but he believes that Superman has become, to an extent, a dictator and kind of a useless tool of like the system, and is trying to bring it down so he can like reestablish them means of production to the peoples. To break it down very, very simply.
You're getting very excited, and I need you to calm down.
Yeah, so we have that. Wonder Woman is just kind of vibing through this whole book. She's just there. She has a crush on Superman, which I thought was kind of cute.
And Superman's too dense to figure it out.
He's a complete himbo. He's real dumb. And then we jump forward in time, and now Superman's getting old. They're all kind of getting old. We have Lex Luthor, who's part of the United States government throughout the other 2 issues. He's Lex Luthor. He's big old scientist man, hates Superman, trying to kill Superman. Normal Lex Luthor.
Right.
And he ends up essentially taking down Superman through non-violent means, and then he has to team up with Superman so they can destroy Brainiac. Very rough synopsis. So through all 3 issues, you have the other side of the ocean. We have what's going on in America with Lex Luthor and Jimmy Olsen and Lois Lane and all that fun shenanigans. Jacob, what are your give me some thoughts to work off of.
We've talked about before in The Dark Knight Returns how Superman's role in that book is kind of generic. It kind of doesn't do a justice to Superman's character. But I think that Batman's role in this Superman book was done really, really well. It makes sense, all of Batman's motivations and what he does, and it's close to his character. So I really like Batman's role in this book. It's probably my favorite part of the book.
I definitely agree with you on that. It takes up the majority of the second issue.
Yes.
So my thing with this book, I haven't read this in a while. When I reread it, my major thought was, this is a lot more of what if Superman but communism
Right.
instead of actually digging into it that much. It's very surface level for the most part. It relies a lot more on the aesthetic of like, so it leans more into like the cultural differences more so than the actual political differences of what's going on.
Right.
Mark Millar has a very basic understanding of economic systems, and it clearly isn't trying to make this actually about ideology for the most part. And that's, I think, why the Superman and Batman dynamic works the most, is because that's the deepest one that there is. Compared to the rest of them, it's kind of, I don't know, the book has more of like the aesthetic of the idea rather than actually diving into it. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's just not how I like most of my books to be.
That's pretty close to one of the notes that I wrote down. I said, reading this kind of feels like willingly reading propaganda. Like, look how bad socialism is. The leading example, I think, is in the first issue. It shows people, having to eat from soup kitchens or whatever, and Superman's like, we have to fix this. And the book is literally like, this is why socialism doesn't work. But it's like, but we have soup kitchens in America too, where people are free. So basically what you were saying, it doesn't make its case well. I also said this book is definitely interesting in premise. Like, what if Superman landed in the USSR, and how would that change things? That's a really good idea. I really like the idea, but it just feels like it gets kind of lost in itself and its goals. I read it once before this and then pretty much forgot about it, but that kind of works in my favor because it's almost to the point that you hear the idea, the premise, and you can probably create a more convincing scenario in your imagination. So
yeah, that I definitely agree with. To be honest, I'm kind of impressed that this thing won an Eisner when it came out.
Really?
Yeah, it did. Like, I can understand on base premise of if you just had the idea. I can understand why a book based on the same premise could win an Eisner. But this one is like, really? I like Mark Millar as a writer. He tends to do some real edgy shit. Sometimes it's really bad. But it definitely feels like either he bit off more than he could chew, or the book was probably just marketed poorly. I think it might more be how DC Publishing handled what the idea was, because I think this is a very enjoyable read. It's very dense, but also small at the same time. It's very compact. It throws a lot of dialogue at you. It's almost all dialogue. But it's not like they're waxing poetic about ideology and like actual economics or whatever. They're just, but the KGB killed my parents. I must kill Batman. I mean, kill Superman, whatever. It's definitely surface level. It looks pretty solid, I gotta say. Yep. I'm not the biggest fan of the art on the whole. That's just a style thing. But the like designs, I think, are amazing. The different costumes, particularly. I was
gonna say the uniforms. Yes. Very good color
Soviet
coding.
Superman looks glorious.
I was going to say Soviet Wonder Woman.
Yes.
The colors are really good. Black and red.
Horny. Not that much, but like no, the suits are really, really, they're sleek, they look really interesting, they're very different. They're not just like color swapped versions. Like Superman's feels like a uniform. Wonder Woman's is kind of just color swapped.
Yes.
Batman's is like aesthetically very different, even though it follows the same basic idea that
Yeah.
Batman suits do.
Yeah.
And hat.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it's just the overall part of the art that I don't really like. It is very
Samey.
it's very samey. It's a bit generic is a strong and very derogatory word, but it feels like this is what most Superman books look like.
There's a lot of text boxes and not much to look at besides text boxes.
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of the splash pages, like the real big full page double pagers,
Yep.
they're coded in so much text it's really hard to look at. Like there's
Right.
some really good panels and there's so much fucking dialogue, which is more a problem of the letterer than the artist, but still.
I argue that this should have been an actual novel instead of a comic book.
I think that would be actually, now that I think about it, because I think that would have negated a lot of the not processing, but like a lot of what you need to make the comic book. That cuts out like half the process. You don't need all the artists, so you don't need the pencilers, the inkers, the letterers, like all that stuff. You cut it down to the writer and like an editor and a publisher. It'd be so much easier because then you can actually dive into the actual content that this thing hints at rather than just looking cool.
I was trying to describe this to people asking me what we were going to be talking about. I'm like, I said that it was kind of a thinker's comic. You have to understand what they're talking about, and they talk a lot, but it's like, it would be so much better if it was an actual book and they could describe or flesh out what they're trying to say.
That is a really good way to put it, because I think it exists in a weird area in the middle, whereas if you have like no knowledge of comic books or Superman or whatever, I think reading it will be a little tricky, because it does rely on, to an extent, some knowledge of how comics function or the ideas of Superman or whatever. And it's not very action heavy, it's a lot of dialogue.
Right.
But the dialogue doesn't really go that deep, so it's not like that freaking deep.
And it's like the things that we've said we liked, the different uniforms or whatever, you can easily describe in words.
Yeah.
You don't have to see them.
Or you could put pictures in the book too.
You could
You can do that. It is allowed in adult books to
Right.
slip in some artwork here and
A
there.
couple of nice glossy pages in the middle of the book.
Which then, as a kid, you would immediately skip to because you just want to look at it.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, I think it definitely should have been a book so that you could have so much more detail and not be bored reading a comic book.
Yeah, that I definitely agree with.
Because that's how... that's why I only got halfway through this week. Is like, every time I thought, like, oh, I have to read that, I would read a couple of pages and pull a Colin, which is going to be my theme this episode. I was, like, full-blown ADHD AF, could not freaking focus. I was freaking bored rereading it because I read it a year ago.
Yeah.
And I mostly remembered the things I had to remember, and everything else kind of fades in the background.
Yeah.
And
I think that kind of feeds into one of my points was I wish it was a lot longer. You could have done this in one shot, just a little thing, just a little bite-sized chunk, or you could have done this is 3 issues, like 3 normal-sized issues.
Right.
You could have made this like 5 or like 8, and I think it would have dove into it a lot better. And then the time jumps are stupidly jarring between issues.
Yep.
I understand why you'd want to do that to tell the narrative you have. You know, if you're only allowed these 3 issues, you want to cover this conflict over so many decades. It's, obviously supposed to mirror the Cold War because it is the Cold War.
Right.
But it feels like it builds up to so many things, which I think are really nice ideas, like how the end of the book goes, the overall finale, the rivalry between Lex Luthor and Superman. It kind of ends up relying on the fact that that Superman and Lex Luthor have a rivalry everywhere else, because this book, while it has it doesn't dive into those 2 people specifically against each other, more like the idea, and then Superman just kind of fighting against what Lex Luthor is doing. It's weird. But then the book ends with Superman doing what I think is a really, really great ending, where he goes off, he saves the world, whatever, and he calls Lex Luthor friend, and I'm like, that hits good. That hits the good spot. But why would he fucking say that though? Because in this book, it doesn't establish like a Sherlock Moriarty sort of thing. Whereas I think that's kind of what it's supposed to be. Is like it's an ideological difference, and they're fighting ultimately for the same goal. Blah blah blah. But this book doesn't dive into it like at all, because it has to focus so much on the plot. But it still ends up not really going that anywhere, because it's all, ooh, they're doing this, and ooh, aliens, and ooh, Brainiac, and whatever, but it doesn't...
A lot of it, I kind of want to say, like, 40% maybe, is Superman's inner monologue of this is what I growed up with and was taught and how I should serve my country and whatever. and whatever.
I think you could have definitely, if you're going to do this as a book, I
He-
think doing this full first person would have been really cool.
He's always questioning what is right and wrong and what makes, the United States different from the Soviet Union and who's right there, and like there's a lot of that. And
There's
I
a
think
lot
it
of
could be trimmed down.
It's a lot of lamp shading without
Yes.
actually going anywhere with it. It's
Right.
just him kind of doing the same questions, and then Lex Luthor doing the same. Haha, capitalism can be bad, but like it's better. It's like, but where to proof dough?
Have you seen all the behind the scenes stuff?
Yes, I
Alright.
find that so much more interesting.
Right.
I love that sort of stuff. So like
Enough.
I do really love what they did with the Green Lanterns, though. So the twists on some of the other DC characters, I think, are very 50-50. What they did with the Green Lanterns is really, really interesting. I like the way that they balanced the ideas of the Superman and Lex Luthor dynamic. I really like Brainiac. But Lois Lane serves like almost no function in this book. She is very much so the plot, and the movie did it better.
I wanted to talk about that.
Oh boy.
So it kind of drives me crazy that what they did to the Lois Lane character. And I thought you were going to be against me on this one because I talked about it last week about somebody else too.
No,
Jim Gordon.
It's just love triangle. It's so weird.
It's like they try to justify her wanting Superman because she has an awful marriage with Lex Luthor because he's an asshole. But
Lex Luthor, a sociopath, really?
But it just comes across to me like she wants the all-star quarterback.
and
And like
yeah,
everybody knows where that goes. As soon as he retires and doesn't throw the football good no more, she's going to want the next all-star quarterback kind of deal. And it's like I think
Yeah.
it cheapens her character.
oh for sure, she is not a character in this like at all. She's there for the aesthetic of having Lois Lane.
Right. They should have had her a strong Soviet woman and like whatever else. They should have I don't know.
You could have
something swapped her character. I don't know what that noun would be, but just swap her to the Soviet side too and have her there as Superman's, solid wife that's like maybe feeding into his no, socialism is the best and you're the ruler of the world and whatever else. Like
Yeah.
that should be the counterbalance to him saying, well, is there something better? Like that would have worked so much better.
That
than
is a
what
good
the book
point.
does.
Is usually when you have a narrative that's told primarily from the perspective of someone who is ultimately wrong, but we're supposed to empathize with. As an example, being like Joker, like the movie. Generally speaking, it's smart to have they're not exactly a foil. I don't remember the specific narrative term, but like having someone there essentially just to talk about fucking like ideology, like just someone to sit there and bounce their ideas back at them. Because it gives you more potential to kind of just talk about it. Like, it's very narrative convenience so we can discuss this in more depth without having to do much about it. But, like, that really helps with that. And then Superman is very lonely in this book, which I do enjoy, but, like, there isn't... It's just kind of looping his own dialogue back onto himself
Right.
versus Lois Lane is over there. And I get the idea of, like, her being essentially, like, the side effect of, like, what the capitalist machine is doing, like... With driving Lex away and just making him just hate Superman and only focus on Superman, whatever, and like they only hang out on their anniversaries and whatever. I get that, like she's like the neglected like home wife, whatever. But it's so boring and doesn't explore her as a character at
Right.
all. Like she's there as like the
Window
book is
setter.
the book is trying to say, hey, having a wife as a window dressing is bad, but then the book does the wife as the window dressing.
Right.
So it doesn't really go anywhere.
And then, so my idea, like, kills two birds with one stone. Because we complained about Wonder Woman just being there and, like, having a crush on Superman and he was too dumb to recognize it. Like, maybe have her as the strong American opposition to counter out Superman. Like,
Something.
then you get better characterization for both female characters instead of just being throwaway, cheap and doesn't really add anything to the story.
Yeah, it's weird. I don't think switching them on sides would work very well, like, overall, but I think needing to actually utilize them in your structure would be a much better idea.
Well,
'Cause I don't think it would make a lot of sense in most universes to throw Wonder Woman against owning the that doesn't. I feel like Wonder
But
Woman's not going to be siding with America most of the time.
like I have an issue with in most Superman ideas is like with this one, why doesn't he just nuke anything that comes against this Mother Russia? Like,
I mean, his philosophy behind that is that he wants to do it entirely bloodless, or as bloodless as possible. Like, he says that throughout the book. He very intentionally does, when he is doing things, and I think that's the key point that I enjoyed, at least in terms of that, is when he does things, they're bloodless, and they're done democratically, but he can't do everything. So when he ends up delegating to people, they make Batmans, basically. Like, when he is directly involved, it's like, that's the end point of the book, is like, he's trying to save everyone and do as much good while doing as little harm, but he can't be everywhere at once, so there are bound to be side effects to that.
But that is a character trait, and that is a weak argument, basically, I think. If he didn't have that in his mind as, like, a personal rule, then he could just wipe out whatever comes against him, and there would be no opposition. There's no villain to the story besides whatever Lex can show. But
that's, I think, maybe the ultimate reason why this book feels weird is because there's kind of two paths you have to take it, and I think I agree with the overall idea of this one he's still Superman, even though all the things around him are different. He was raised differently, he has somewhat different values, but, like, it's Clark Kent. Like, yeah, he's different. He speaks funny and whatever. But, like,
he's a country boy.
Yeah, he has almost all the same values that he does in any other continuity, any other universe. So it's like it's kind of like that theme that's hinted at in, like, I think Doomsday Clock primarily, of, like, every universe has its Superman, or it kind of has to have a Superman. Superman as a concept is eternal. He's always going to be there. So, like, it either that, or then you just remove it. Then it just turns into Injustice, and then it's just Superman being a dictator. So, do you want to go with more of a story about the politics of it, or do you want to go about how Superman would function? And this book doesn't really pick.
Right. Superman's OP. So you need really strong concepts. He should be more of a philosopher, I think.
Yes.
Than just an action hero, because he's OP.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. And I think that's the things that his better stories usually lean into, and then this one kind of... It hints that it wants to, but it doesn't really do it. My last point is that I do enjoy how after the end of this book, at the end, where essentially capitalism and socialism fuck, and then they make this whole new system that makes everything great, and the world's a utopia, and then it inevitably fails in some way, shape, matter, or form. And we have, like, it does the whole everything is cyclical, kind of like the end of, like, Last Night on Earth, where, like, there's always got to be a Superman. So then in the future, I don't even remember, it's like millennia later, there are these people who send back their son Kal-El in time to go back in time and land in Russia, and, like, it does the whole cyclical, the end is the beginning thing.
Right.
I'm a sucker for those, even though usually they're pointless.
Last Night on Earth, that part really threw me. I was like, what are they trying to accomplish with this twist? And I didn't get it. It went over my head because it's in a confusing part of a timeline. Like, they start out trying to confuse you, like, where is this in whatever timeline?
Yeah.
With, like, a body swap and whatever, and then it ends with that, and it's like, what is going on? I don't understand.
Yeah, no. I mean, I think we discussed it at the time, and over time I've come to agree a little bit more with you. That was one of the weaker points of that book. But I think it's one of those things that give me happy feelings, even though I know most of the time they have no reason to be there, and they're kind of dumb. I'm like, oh, they did the Superman will always exist thing.
Same thing with Doomsday Cock.
Doomsday Cock did that. I really loved how Doomsday Cock did that, actually.
I know you did, but that's because you understand the DC timeline way freaking more than I do.
True.
And I'm like, who the f*** is that?
That's a little blue boy.
No kidding.
So overall thoughts, I enjoy this. I'll read it every once in a while, but it had way more potential out of the base premise than was executed.
Upon attempting rereading, probably will not come back to this. I remembered it better than what it really is.
Wow. Interesting.
It was a struggle to get halfway through it this week. I was just very bored.
Yeah. I smashed through it at work, so I was already bored, so it kind of helped with that.
Right.
So we're going to move on to Star Wars Bad Batch Episode 4, which came out yesterday. Jacob, what you think?
I pulled a Colin and stared at my phone far more than the actual episode. So you're going to have to carry me on this one.
Wow.
I did notice that the character I never remember the name of from Mandalorian is in this episode.
Fennec Shand.
Yes.
Yeah, so...
Voiced by the same actress, too.
Yes.
Yes. And
Ming-Na Wen, she's great.
Brother was playing Call of Duty in the other room with his freaking pop music playing in his ears.
Did he go, "Is that Agent May?"
Yep.
Yes, I'm a simp.
From Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. He's like, "Oh, that's the person from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D." And I'm like, "Okay, cool. I haven't seen
Ming-Na
that
Wen
show."
is great. Also aging like wine. Okay, so yeah, basic plot of this. This is one of those nice little simple plot episodes,
Yep.
which I was a big fan of.
It's mostly a chase scene.
Yeah, it's a lot of so they need to cloak their ship because there's apparently a target on their back, and people are tracking them, and they're like, "Oh shit!"
Also, they're out of money.
Yeah, because they have Republic credits, and those don't work on me. Holy money! So they need to get Imperial credits to do anything, but they can't get Imperial credits until they register to get their personal ID numbers, and they can't do that because they're on the run. The whole dealio.
I forget. I'm reading 3 different Star Wars books right now, and I don't even know if it was one of those or if it was some show I watched or whatever, but when the Empire took over in one of the iterations of Star Wars that I've been consuming recently, there was they set up little shops, and they were saying trade in your Republic credits for Imperial credits or whatever. So
oh yeah, no, that's in Lost Stars.
Is it? Okay.
There's just little propaganda centers everywhere.
Right.
Yeah, they're
so
just
is that
sucking
canon?
off Palpatine. It is.
Why couldn't the Bad Batch do that?
Because you still need your I don't remember the specific term. You need chain code. There we go.
Which is what Mr. Filoni has created, by the way.
Yeah, so you need your chain code. Hence why Han, no name, was given a last name, a Solo in Solo, a Star Wars Solo movie, because he does
with his red Solo cup.
Yeah, they need to land so they can tweak the ship, so they can switch their basically their ship VIN number. So they land. Then they're like, also hungry. So they they split up. Hunter and
I think
Echo.
Uncle Hunter and Uncle Echo.
Sorry, I forgot my own rule. So the 2 best characters take the small other best character, and then they go on a little expedition to go see what they can scrounge up and do some sightseeing. Sorry, it's not sightseeing. We're on a mission, but it's sightseeing. So they go to a shop. They sell off Echo, which I thought was freaking hilarious.
Right.
They're like, "Oh, he looks like a droid.
He's a droid.
We could sell him for money."
And he's pissed off the whole time about
I'm worth more than 2,000 credits.
I think it was 3.
They settled on 3,
and he still wasn't happy.
Yeah. I thought that was great. So yeah, they split up, and then Uncle Wrecker and Uncle Tech. That sounds horrible. Stay with the ship. They're making the modifications because Wrecker can wreck it, and then Tech can fix it. I'm trying to make a really bad Wreck-It Ralph reference.
Right? I was trying to help you there.
By staring at me, that helps.
I was connecting telepathically,
okay.
And the Bluetooth connection failed, so...
I gotta disconnect that speaker. Yeah, and then Omega decides to she has a thing, and then an animal takes a thing, and she gets lost. And then Fennec Shand is a bounty hunter, who this is her first timeline canon appearance, as far as I'm aware. So this is cool. This is like her origin or whatever the fuck. So she has been contracted to find the kid. We don't know if that is a specific bounty or if that's an open bounty or not.
Right.
So, yeah, she tries to steal the kid. Uncle Hunter says no. And then fight scene, chase scene, more fight scene. Droid uprising, baby. I swear, every time they do a little droid uprising, it makes me happy. Like, it's the same thing over and over. It's like, wait a minute. We are slaves. Let's not be slaves. That guy's nice. Let's go with that guy. And they do the same thing. Like, every series, every movie has it now. And I love it. I was a really big fan of the music of this episode. Kevin Kiner has been just absolutely nailing it with all the animated stuff lately anyway. But for some reason, this episode stuck out. It was real energetic and fun. It took a 22-minute basically chase and fight sequence, and it was still really fun and upbeat, and I wasn't bored. But also cute little droids did cute little droid things. There's the little... He kind of looked like an astromech droid, but he had like little arms and legs.
Right.
That was hilarious. I want one.
I'll take 2.
Yeah. That's really it. I'm just...
Yeah.
Now we know where the plot's going overall, with... There's a bounty out on Lay Child. So we get an idea what we're doing now. Now that we're 4 episodes into a 16-episode season, and we're still in the beginning of Act 1, now we kind of have an idea where we're going, which is good. I don't know, I was just glad it was something simple. Like, not plot-heavy, but, like, plot-focused. Just... Because Star Wars has been so... big... and complicated lately. I've passed like 5 years. It's a nice break. I know that's what we also said about The Mandalorian Season 1 when that came out, but even Mandalorian Season 2 was not convoluted, but there were many layers going on. There was a lot of stuff. And Rise of Skywalker, next sentence. Lots of complicated, big plot. What?
Well,
Twist?
That was just trying to make up for the shitty trilogy.
I mean, yes.
Like,
and then made it worse.
Let's throw everything at the wall.
Literally everything at
and
the
it
wall.
all turns into crap.
Basically.
But we're trying to fix our movie trilogy.
Yeah. Yeesh. Yeah, but
it was a Hail Mary that was
basically.
intercepted.
Yeah. But it's like even a lot of Star Wars lately. I was kind of tired, and then I was glad that we were starting with Bad Batch, which is for the most part smaller, and I like how they're sticking with that. And then this episode in particular didn't have like a strong emotional through line. I thought they might go with the whole, oh look, the kid was tricked into being friends with the tricky people who tricked them into not liking their old friends or whatever the hell. And I'm like, wait, please tell me that they trust this kid to be smart. And then the kid didn't do something really extra stupid, and I was happy. I don't know.
Tricksy hobbitses.
Yeah, basically. I was like, oh gosh, are they gonna do the kid gets tricked into hating their friends or whatever? Oh no, they didn't. Oh, thank God. It just was, we're getting pursued by bounty hunters, or one bounty hunter, and I guess that I would assume that that's most likely going to be most of the plot for the rest of the season,
right.
Which is fine by me. I liked the last moment where it showed that Fennec Shand isn't a complete piece of shit, whereas, like the shopkeeper was
right.
like, please no kill me, and she still paid him. That, I think, is kind of them going, see, she's not a total shithead, so when... probably has no redemption arc in this season at all. Like, we just go, and then if you go to the end of her, in The Mandalorian now, where she's in the middle, is kind of just being swayed by where the money is, but, like, she's not, like, a scumbag or whatever. It's like, I guess that makes more sense. So I guess it's retroactively planting seeds or whatever the hell. Any last thoughts on this episode?
Nope.
Or no? Okay, cool. It was cool. The droids were cute. The kid's cute. We gonna go punch some stuff. I don't know. So this week, I read a book. I know, thank you. I did my job. So I read Year of the Villain, The Infected. So, you know how last week I was like, how this Batman-Superman book came out of this other book, which came out of that other book? Well, this is the book that comes out of Batman-Superman. It's a lot. Yeah. So this is a series of one-shots for all of the infected, the Secret Six, all the infected people. This was really 50-50. So there were 3 issues, which I thought were really good. So we had Shazam, who's being a real edgy teenager. It's basically it. He's just being a dick the whole time. Supergirl, which I thought was really good. It ties into what she had been doing at the time, so it's a lot of plot that I didn't even know about because I hadn't been keeping up with the Supergirl line. But there's some good internal stuff going on there. And then James Gordon, big standout, excellent issue. The Blue Beetle one was pretty mediocre.
Typical, am I right?
Little bit. I really liked the premise. I like what they're doing with him, like the character. They're like, oh, he's infected, so he's turning into like this, like an actual beetle monster. I really liked that. The art was really weird. I have not encountered the artist before. It was kind of gross, blobby, everything's around type. I don't know. But I did like the internal dialogue a lot. It was very gross. So Donna Troy, which I believe was just the Teen Titans issue, was horrible. I don't like Donna Troy, period. I never have. I think she's boring as all hell. I'm a much bigger fan of the current Wonder Girl that they're going for. That will be the one moving into the future. I don't like Donna Troy. She sucks. And the Hawkman issue was also pretty bad. It was just Hawkman exists in other Earths and is also evil. Like, Hawkman has always been an inter-Earth, interdimensional
Interlinked
deity base.
Yep.
It's so pointless. Where the hell is this thing going was the thought throughout this whole thing. It's just a compilation of the individual issues. So, like, versus if you go into the book from the Metal event that collected all of the one-shots for the Dark Batman.
Yeah,
those
were... I know what you're talking about. The Batman Who Laugh, or...
whatever the hell it was.
Something like that.
Yeah, but that book was... It's still it tied into the ongoing narrative at the time.
Yep.
So you read it interspersed. It's like, ooh, they introduced a new one.
Yep.
Next issue, you get to read their origin. That flowed really well. They were very well contained. Versus this is this kind of event meshing with the ongoing lines. It was really messy, and I was kind of bored. It was. Ugh. It is a compilation book, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Not a big fan. Couple of good ones, though. Evil James Gordon's pretty fucking cool. I don't know. What have you been doing?
Is that from the one drawn by Jacques?
No.
Like,
I mean, it's the
the
follow-up
end
to
of
that.
that. He's like infected by the Joker
and then that
juice.
falls into Batman Superman, which then leads into this, which leads into the actual.
So it's the
event.
payoff to the cliffhanger in Batman Who Laughs or whatever.
Literally, you cut off that one page and it's a self-contained book.
Right.
So close. It's a really good cliffhanger too, and it goes cool places. Anyways, what have you been doing, boy?
Suggested price.
I bought this full price for like $15. If it's like $5, pick it up. I'm happy because it's on my shelf because I'm a completionist dickhead. But I wouldn't recommend. I'd loan this to people and then recommend you only read specific issues.
Right. So what if you only found the James Gordon issue?
I'd pay like $5 for that.
All right.
That was really good issue.
So really, you're just buying the book for the Gordon issue.
A little bit. I mean, he yells at Batgirl and then she cries. It was pretty cool. She does a big sad because Daddy's screaming at her.
Well, this week I read Swamp Thing: Roots of Terror, which was released in 2019. Ooh. It includes 4 issues of Swamp Thing stories that aren't connected in any way. The point of this book is it's basically a tribute to Len Wein. I think I'm saying that right.
I believe so.
Who died, it seemed quite suddenly, quite young. He was the one writing most of the Swamp Thing stories. And when he died, they had actually written and basically made an issue starting a new series. So that was one of the ones included. It was like part of the main continuity, it seemed. And it was going to be like a 3-issue storyline, but obviously there was only one made. This is my first thing with my first Swamp Thing book that I've ever read. So my takes are going to be kind of just floating out there in the ocean because I don't know what to base this off of besides, other comics.
I don't think it's floating around in the ocean, my dude. I'm pretty sure it's floating
In the
around
swamp?
in the bayou.
Yeah, whatever. The artwork is really, really good. There was one that I can point out and say this is the weakest, but that's by far, that's far from saying it's bad. It was just 3 amazing ones and 1 good one. So, for artwork, there's lots of depth and meaning to the characters that you'll love when I lend you this book. The size of the book is doubled by so much behind-the-scenes stuff for these 4 issues. So you basically read the issues twice. You see how it was released, and 1 or 2 of them have a little blurb explaining it before you read it. And then the end of the book goes through the same order, but it's got like the script, or it's got the pencils with no text boxes or whatever, or inks or whatever, or concept art, or all kinds of things like that. So you basically, you're buying 4 issues with a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff.
Nice.
Cover price is $18.
Wow.
I would suggest half that, unless you are a diehard Swamp Thing fan.
I mean, I've got some swamp ass right now.
In which case, this is going to mean a lot to you. So definitely pay full price, because it was a very nice tribute to Len Wein, and there was somebody else, but I forgot who. I believe it was an artist that was connected to the series.
You're doing the oh shit!
I completely.
You sound like a porn star who's freaking out. Just like, you sound like you're trying really hard to sound like you're doing something, and everyone knows you're lying.
No, I'm trying to remember, because I read it a couple of days ago, and I was like, I don't know who that is, and now I should be reporting it, and I can't. Spencer, what else have you done this week?
So I did another Year of the Villain.
Ooh.
Yeah. So this was like overall, it was a kind of like the whole year of 2019 was, what dare I say, a year of villains.
Bruh.
The event was really spread out. It's weird. So this was Hell Arisen, which is like the actual main event, or kind of main event. So this was a 4-issue miniseries, but it was split. Each individual issue was split into 3 parts. So we have Chapter 1, Doom, which was written by Scott Snyder, penciled and inked by Jim Chung. Chapter 2, Leviathan, written by Brian Michael Bendis and art by Alex Maleev. And then Justice, which is part 3, written by James Tynion. I still don't know how to pronounce his last name. And James Tynion. There we go. I knew it. James Tynion IV. And then illustrated by Francis Manapul. I'm not a fan of when books or issues are split up between different writers and artists for the most part. If it's a one-shot, so like an Infinite Frontier or like a DC Rebirth, where it's like, this is the demonstrate what the different lines will be like, and it's big. This is just 4 different issues, but split up between 3 artists, 3 like writer-artist sets. It's really annoying.
So on that thought, liken that to Mandalorian, which is directed by different people every episode.
That's fine. That's good, usually.
It can't be that much different, though. Like, it's gonna look mostly the same, but you're gonna have different freaking artistically shown shots and
there are different
point of views and perspectives.
I think it shows
and whatever.
strongest in the first season, because that's where episodes were a lot more in the bottle.
Right.
But you have a heist episode, which also partially played out like a horror movie for short segments of it. That was very different than the first 2, which were basically just like actual straight up westerns. Like, it's very different directing styles. It's very different from when it's
That's what I'm saying. So you said you don't like it when
it's not
comic lines are
like
written by different people and drawn by different people. So
I have no issues with it when they connect, or like events. No shit, they're not gonna all be done by the exact same people.
Right.
That's fine. Like when there are different intersecting lines, like the Metal the Resistance, where you have Suicide Squad, Titans, Green Arrow, Harley Quinn, like all of them intersecting, that was fine. And those did jump in between. But that was on an issue by issue basis. This is, each issue is split up into 3 sections, and there are 4 issues.
Oh.
Yeah, and they're each running a different part of the plot.
I see.
It's
now.
annoying.
Okay.
I thought all of it was done really well, but I just can't stand that sort of writing style. It feels way more gimmicky, and these are some of my favorite comic writers. It's annoying. Basically, this is partially a culmination of the Forever Evil event, as well as the Year of the Villain event, and some other shit, which then ties in. This is essentially like the setup issue, or like the setup book for what is going to be happening in Death Metal. It also ties into Justice Do More. I forgot that one. That's kind of the big one. Some of those are events. Some of those are just like the end. Like Justice Do More was like the end of the Justice League book written by Scott Snyder in 2019. It's a lot. And this is where I think DC Publishing really fucked up with how messy all this shit is.
Yep.
Because all of the ideas are really, 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 really good. They got amazing artists and writers involved. And it's so fucking all over the place. It drives me crazy. Anyways, so Lex Luthor, our big old bald boy, is essentially having a rivalry with the Batman Who Laughs, to become the right hand of Perpetua, who we met in the Justice League line. She is the mother of the multiverse. So her children are the Monitor, the Anti-Monitor, and another character who I cannot remember, who is one of the people who also monitors those sorts of things. I just can't remember his name.
Tempest Fuganut.
No, he's the next tier down.
Oh.
So she is the, like, outside of Darkseid, because Darkseid, not his physical form, Justice League punches Darkseid real good, big deal. Like, the Darkseid, the way out there concept, she's the biggest thing. She literally breathed the multiverse into existence, but she did it wrong, and it's good. It was supposed to be bad, and she's angry, and she's like, well, this world is... all of these worlds are kind of shit, but they're not my type of shit, and thusly, she doesn't like the fact that the dark multiverse exists, not because she wants to flip the multiverse essentially over and have that be on top. It should kind of just all be bad, but not like the deepest, darkest hells of your nightmares. Oh, like what the dark multiverse is, where everything is perpetual nightmare mode.
Right.
It's just all supposed to be kind of bad. It's weird. Yeah. So Lex Luthor merges with a Martian. He becomes Apex Lex, which I actually thought was pretty cool. He's like the Apex Predator, but he's also big brain boy. I thought that was kind of neat. So he's having a rivalry with the Batman Who Laughs to please Perpetua, essentially. He gets betrayed by Perpetua, big surprise. Lex Luthor was being naive. Yeah, and then they pull together some teams, and they do punchy shit. It's really hard to tell what the actual plot was of this. It's hard to describe because it's the culmination of so many damn things. I enjoyed it. It was a good read. The dialogue was really, really good. Mostly the art was excellent. The teams were really interesting. I was a fan of that. Yeah, it's just... I gave this book a fairly high rating on Goodreads, but on the most frustrating thing is how messy this fucking thing is. Because this isn't like the big event. This is a tie-in to another tie-in to 3 separate smaller events, which are all leading up to the big one, which in theory makes sense. All of your other events should be dwarfed by a crisis, and the crisis to end all crises. But still, it makes reading it really unpleasant and obnoxious when you don't know everything, so you have to end up doing a lot of wikiing, and then you're like, I just want to enjoy these 2 people just kind of yelling at each other, because it's fun.
Right.
But, yeah. That's really it on that.
Price?
Like $16, $17. Get it on a sale for like 12. 10,
all
12.
Right.
It's all right. It's a decent enough read. It's just frustrating on the larger scale.
Right. Well, I pulled a Colin.
Wow.
And I played most of EA's Star Wars Squadrons, which released last year, 2020. There are 14 missions, and I got through most of them. I stopped because I got to a spot where it's like, shoot the thing, and the thing wasn't there, and it really, really, really pissed me off because they're just saying shoot the thing over and over and over again, and there's no thing to shoot. But anyway, it felt like each mission was just made as a precursor so that you understand how each different ship operates so that you know what you're doing when you jump into multiplayer. It's basically the same setup as Battlefront 2's re-release or whatever from a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Like, the missions are just there to teach you how to play. They go through, I think, 6 missions as the Republic, and then 6 missions as, or whatever the frig else. It's half and half, the Republic, and then you go to the Empire. I kept trying to say Imperial. It's like, no! Freaking Empire! Ugh. I want to love this game. Because my whole childhood, me using my imagination was imagining myself in an X-Wing. Like, that's how I spent my childhood. To be fair, I played this on a very small, not HD computer screen.
Oof.
I did bring that non-HD computer screen about 2 inches away from my face as I played, but it's not the same. It would have been cooler on a big TV, but I strongly feel this should have been a VR exclusive. It should not have been brought to main consoles or PC or whatever for non-VR experiencing.
I mean, it was primarily designed for VR.
Yeah.
So they just kind of ported it over.
It shouldn't have been ported. It just doesn't translate, I don't think.
That's sad.
There's a lot of stuff in between missions, like actually flying, where you're like standing still and you have to point at the different rooms to go in there and then point at the different people you want to talk to, and it pulls up the cutscene and you have to talk to people before you start the mission, and there's briefings that you have to attend.
So it sounds like actually being in the military. It's mostly boring stuff.
They're trying to add a story to the tutorial for multiplayer. But after like 4, I was just mashing the skip button. Like, just let me fly. Please, get me out of here. Like you would be in the military.
So how was the actual flying, Flyboy?
Well, hang on. My complaint is that your pointing to other rooms to interact is straight out of VR. You would look over there and click the button to move instead of walking over there by pushing forward on the walking stick, because you would get the typical sickness from VR. So, like, they didn't change anything in the off missions from the VR experience. You have it. It sucks.
I really want to get a VR headset and one of those actual like VR treadmills. That's like you can actually just do the walking.
Yes.
I'm just gonna play Minecraft. I'm just gonna walk so much.
Wake up the next morning unable to move.
That was a hard gaming session. I can't even go to the gym.
The actual flying is good. It's got a lot of strong mechanics that they keep introducing more and more of. It got a little complicated. Like, you're using the same button for 3 different things. Like, the same button to tell your squad what to attack or where to go is also the same button that affects your shields, forward or aft, or just general all around me, which I really, really like the shield concept. Push all the shields to my ass so that I can escape and not get blasted. Ass blasted. Like, I was using that feature a lot, but there were times where it would just tell my squad to go fly away, and it's like, what? No, don't. So they have a lot of different.
You were playing on a PC. Were you using
I was playing on my PlayStation. But not PS VR, because that thing costs as much as another PlayStation.
No, it's not bad though.
Screw that. Like, how many games am I actually gonna play?
You can
Resident
play
Evil
Arkham.
7.
You can play Arkham VR for the 2-hour runtime.
Yeah, no. Resident Evil 7, EA Squadrons, and there's nothing else. There's a lot of different systems on your ship that you can change, like the different blasters or different hulls or engines or whatever. So you can basically take the basic shape or basic ship model and make it peak for how you play. If you're a run and gunner, or if you're slow and tanky and bombing or whatever, there's a lot of variety in how you can build your ship, which is really helpful because most of the basic ship loadouts, I had a really hard time steering. It just felt like I was driving a school bus. And it was like, please turn sharper. And they like tell you to slow down and turn or whatever, and it just doesn't
What
work.
you really want to do is just space drift. Just do that awesome move that you see in every movie. They're just...
It's really hard to pull off, but you can do it.
Nice.
But it's really hard to pull off, and I pretty much only did it during the tutorial. That was cool. I won't remember how to do that again.
That's one hell of a pilot.
So, I want to like it, but I don't have a VR headset. It should have just been VR.
Just tape your phone to your eyes. Just put a little cardboard box around it.
Multiplayer's frustrating because it's a really, really big space. It's almost like Battlefield size map, and you only have 5 people to shoot at. So it's like by the time you get to the firefight, you're like da, 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 and then somebody's shooting at you and you're dead. And it's like I didn't even hit somebody. Like a lot of that is partly because I probably suck, which I can fully own. But also
get good.
Shut up. But also, it's just really frustrating to have to fly for 30 seconds to get to the fight, and then...
But you gotta redeploy from the ship. It's
die
gotta
very
be
quickly.
battle accurate.
You're battle accurate.
I got some battle scars.
From Cooking Simulator, too.
Yeah. Definitely. So what'd you buy this for? Because I know it launched at $40.
$20,
That's
I think?
not bad.
No.
It's about as cheap as games get.
It's probably worth the price, but I'm kind of dissatisfied with what I spent on it. I personally should have waited longer for a deeper sale than that, but that would be hard to come by.
So I read one of the books you have lent me, or it's multiple little books, but it's collected as one book.
Yes.
So I read Dr. Spectrum. So the book itself, I went and did a Goodreads search because Goodreads is always on top of their comic books. All of those issues are collected as what is called Full Spectrum, is what the trade is called.
You're Full Spectrum.
I know I'm on the spectrum. It's written by Sarah Barnes, penciled by Travel Foreman. It's a 6-issue 2004 miniseries under Marvel's Max label. So you bought it for like $8.
Yep.
I borrowed it. I read this on my lunch break. I kind of hate the art, frankly. Some of it's pretty good, some of it's pretty bad.
It's super basic.
It's so inconsistent. It's all one penciler, and every issue looks different. Not like we're doing different styles because the tone is shifting. It just looks like a different illustrator every time.
And that's not because of all the flashbacks?
No.
I hadn't caught that.
No, it's something that you'd feel like if it was potentially a more experienced illustrator, it would be an intentional choice to differentiate your flashbacks,
right,
or your different sections of the emotional spectrum, which is what I thought it was until I just read through it again, like briefly, and I was like, nope, it's just lazy.
Weird.
It's just kind of poorly illustrated. It's not horrible, it's bearable, but it's not fun to look at. It's just bland. The story was interesting in premise. I like the pastiche, which is what the technical term for when you have a character that's basically another character from a different company, but you're not actually parodying it. So this is a pastiche of Green Lantern. Because he's got a thing, with emotions, and yeah, the Squadron Supreme, which is the team that he will eventually become a part of on this version of Earth, are basically a pastiche of the Justice League. So he's hanging out with like Black Hawk and like other characters like that. Yeah. I enjoy the pastiche of it being like a different take on a character from another company that somebody else came up with. I kind of like that. But this just the really bland ass characterizations of everybody, including the main character, very boring. It just everyone's generic. Everyone talks really generic. There are like 5 generic military doctors with 3 doctors, and nurse who gets fucked a lot in this book. And even the main character is very inconsistent, which I can live with that one because he's in a coma sort of thing, and he's like talking to the stone and doing flashbacks and stuff. So I could live with him being kind of all over the place. There's just no real interesting character in this book, aside from the main character, who's only maybe 50% of the book.
Mm-hmm.
I did enjoy the flashbacks. The structure is something that, personally speaking, as an amateur scriptwriter, I would not fuck with. I would not try to write any of my stuff now like that in terms of structure. It's all over the place. If you're experienced, you can pull it off because you understand how to pull stuff in and out and weave the current theme of this scene into the next. It's really hard, and I don't think it was done very well. As she was described at the time, she was a hot and upcoming writer. It kind of shows. Not trying to be overly harsh, but I write flashbacks. I'm not a good writer, to be frank. I'm not, but I do some script writing here and there. I write flashbacks. Everything is real fucking simple, though. This is trying to deal with so many different time periods at the same time, and the current timeline, which jumps around. After the first issue, he's in a coma for like 4 months before we find him again in the second issue. And then it all takes place over like 2 days. It's so... This was not planned out. This was really done off the top of whoever's head. I really feel like it didn't justify the adult rating, to be honest. So it's a Max book, which means it's under... What Marvel was doing in the 2000s was they had alternate versions of characters. There's a couple of different Earth... I believe there's 2 or 3 different Earth designations that all of the Max titles took place on. This is one. Punisher, Wolverine, and then another character all took place on a different Earth. Something like that. And I like that, and especially Punisher Max is universally loved and kind of retrofitted into main continuity at this point because everyone loves it so much.
It's so good.
But this one was like, all right, cool, they show the titties. What else? Like, it happens. Like, there's some...
It's like 2 or 3 words.
Yeah, there's...
Like, and 2 or 3 sex scenes.
Yeah,
but
like...
they're really, really, really small. Like, 1 frame.
Yeah, like... I mean, the fact that the main character runs around a lot in the nude is probably the real thing.
But it's shadowed out.
It's shadowed. He's a big, muscular dude. Nobody cares if you can see his ass anyway. As usual, you can see everything. There's no dong, though. You hide the dong, you're fine, which is so dumb.
Right.
Yeah, but, like, some characters have some titties, and it's like, okay. Fine, like, I have no problem with this. None of it seemed gratuitous, which isn't a complaint that it wasn't gratuitous for the most part anyway. But, like, usually when you get this is really adult, it's made for adults, it's gonna feel gratuitous somewhere. This felt like another Marvel book in the early 2000s, which was when they had, like, their kind of darker turn, was, like, when, like, around turn of the millennium, like, Ultimate Comics, and then even the mainline comics were a bit more graphic at the time, but that's really it.
I think,
and they say fuck like 3 times.
Yeah, I think what you're trying to say is like they only half committed to the Max rating.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you cut what gave it its rating, it could have easily been mainstream.
Oh, 100%.
Easily.
Like, it felt almost intentional that they were like, oh, we have to try to make this a Max rating. Like, you could have made the flashbacks way more visceral. You could have made it a lot more graphic when violence does happen.
Right.
And you could have easily justified that, like Punisher does, with no sweat.
Right.
Obviously, it's not Punisher, but it felt really half-heartedly
adult. It was like,
adult.
we should throw in a sex scene frame. Boom. Boobies. Yeah. Wow.
It just expands upon what's already there. Like almost all comics of the similar type, they'd be like, oh, okay, they're gonna do the do on that couch, and then there's 2 panels. Someone's hand goes under his shirt. Boom, we wake up next morning. Like, that's usually what comics do for the most part.
Right.
And this one's like, oh, we got 4 more panels. You can see a nipple, and then someone says fuck, and then we wake up the next morning. It's like, why?
Right.
It doesn't add a layer. It doesn't
unnecessary.
It doesn't
just allude to it like every other comic book.
It doesn't feel like either it's gratuitous just to get horny people to read it or for people who really like language or whatever, and it doesn't feel like it is actually part of the desire of the writer or the artist to have a more graphic or more adult or more like in-depth look at stuff. Like just because you show a lot of boobs, it doesn't mean that your book is just doing it to get horny people on board. You can do it in a matter of, hey, we're doing storytelling that just has more nudity or whatever. But this one's so weird in the middle, and it doesn't care about either end of, we're doing it just so the horny, angry guys read the book, or doing it where it's like, it's artistic and whatever. It's just there. Why?
So what
I'm
you're
not
saying
buying this.
is it was definitely worth the free price tag.
Absolutely worth the loan. It filled up a lunch break. Maybe when I'm rich, famous, and I have room on my shelf, because I would love to have like all the Squadron Supreme book. Maybe then I'd buy it as a trade for like $10, but I'm probably not gonna read it again.
I kind of regret the $8 I spent on it.
Yeah, I'm not gonna buy it.
I'll never read it again.
Send it to Colin. He'll be like, "Ooh, boobies!"
Yeah, but he won't even get to the boobies because
He'll
of
be
the
so
different
bored.
illustration
That's true.
changes. He'll be like, "No, it sucks."
First panel, he's gonna throw up.
Right.
That's fair. So I know you have only done the 2 things, and you don't have another thing. Whereas we're supposed to have 3 because Colin's not here. So let me come up with a question out of my ass for you.
Ooh, at least wipe it off of it first,
No.
please. Okay.
Favorite Spider-Man costume in any form of media? No restriction on type, continuity, or medium of art.
You ever think about it? Yeah, I haven't read a Spider-Man book.
Holy Jesus.
We got to get you on some Ultimate Spider-Man.
Honestly, not huge on PS4 Spider-Man's basic suit.
I love everything about it except the shade of red. The red is too orange, and it doesn't look good. If it was a darker red, it's really unique.
It looks
Washed out.
It tries too hard to make it look like there's a human underneath. A little chiseled, a little padded. It walks a weird line, and I don't like it.
That's fair.
Never been huge on the sweatshirt one. That one just looks weird. The punk rock one is kind of funny, but I was gonna say unrealistic. Let's think about this.
Man with spider powers is too unrealistic. You're breaking my immersion because he has a mohawk.
Because he can't sneak around with that mohawk sticking out of his head.
Yeah.
He's gonna bump it into everything. Iron Spider is up there as
So are we
favorites.
talking like comic Iron Spider, like the Iron Spider? Or are we talking MCU Iron Spider?
Oh, there was one in the game that I kept playing as. It was a Ghost Rider Spider-Man suit where his head was flaming. That one was pretty friggin' funny to play because as it's loading different areas, it shows Spider-Man like on the Amtrak or T or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's just a flaming ghost head.
Oh yeah, that one. Yeah.
That was one of my favorites.
Nice.
I don't know. I don't really like or dislike too many suits.
Wow.
I'm kind of just like a fan of
I
having.
just like Spider-Man.
I like different suits.
Go thwip.
I like that there is a lot of variation among suits. Like it's not all like Iron Man. Iron Man Mark 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 drives me crazy because it shows an evolution, but
A lot of them are pretty similar.
yeah, going from like 3 to 4 is like, what'd you change? There's not a whole lot there. Like it's really, really
Yeah.
small baby steps. Whereas Spider-Man has big variations. You've got color swaps or different colors, like black and green instead of the red and blue or whatever. So,
big time Spider-Man. Oh boy.
or like if you
boy.
mix Spider-Man and another character, what that looks like. So I'm usually down for most of them.
Nice.
Free Comic Book Day is coming up very, very soon, next couple of months. And the people who had a huge hand in it until recently was Jetpack Comics and Games in downtown Rochester, New Hampshire. Jetpack offers what you would assume to find in a comic book store, which would be comic books.
Wow.
But also, they have a whole bunch of other things. They have like minifigures and replicas and dice and board games and artwork all over the place and rare stuff. And it's just a comic book nerd's dream to walk into there. Visit them on their website or in person. I'm going there after the recording in about 15 minutes, and I'm very excited. But back on the point about Free Comic Book Day, we plan to be having a table somewhere in a deep, dark corner of the whole event.
Well, we'll be in the Saw bathroom-looking dungeon thing.
Yes, you might be able to find us if you're really looking for us. It's that small of a table. But we are bouncing around ideas for cosplay. And I think what should happen is that we've already posted a picture of Colin cosplaying as Spider-Man. So I think we should somehow create a Patreon exclusive funded Spider-Man costume variant for Colin to wear on Free Comic Book Day. And that can only happen if we have Patreon. So thank you very much to Business Casual, Jeff Lawrence, and Wesley Eaton for supporting the show continuously, nonstop. It is much appreciated.
Give us money and we'll be able to buy a paper sign to put on Colin's back saying, "Kick me."
As he's dressed as Spider-Man.
Yeah, and I'll kick him anyway.
Yeah. If we have listeners out there that are not Patreons who would like to be Patreons, maybe support the Patreon exclusive Spider-Man variant uniform, go over to patreon.com/dimecomicbros. And there are a couple of different tiers. Hopefully those tiers are going to be simplified here pretty soon. And you can get all kinds of cool extra stuff.
Stickers.
With the different tiers. I think I still have a Patreon exclusive soundbite that I need to edit. Just sitting on my hard drive, waiting for me to listen to it. Actually, last episode, Colin called out one of the Patreons and was telling them very rude things, and I will be sending that to Colin to send to the Patreon.
It's paid for by the lizard people.
Ooh!
So, speaking of lizard people, you know what else controls the world? Ancient artifacts. And formerly Nazis. We will be discussing a book related to both of those things next week, which is Spider-Man Noir Twilight in Babylon. It is the first 5 issues of the current Spider-Man Noir run, which at the time of us deciding we thought was going to be a limited series, but it turns out it's an ongoing, so big oof there. But, we're going to talk about everyone's favorite trench coat wearing, revolver wielding...
Nicolas Cage.
And then the week after that's Howard the Duck.
Yes!
So as Jacob said, Patreon's got lots of stuff on it. As he alluded to, we got some sound clips, we got some memes.
I didn't go through all the socials, did I?
That's fine.
That's your job.
Exactly.
I don't care about the socials.
Exactly. I'm just the one who actually brings us viewers. You can also listen to episodes as soon as they're done being edited, usually on Fridays, but on occasion stuff does happen. You know, we do have lives. We are allowed to have lives and girlfriends. Just saying. Jacob, get one.
I'm gonna give you one.
Sheesh. I am not gonna be your girlfriend. Feel free to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. I post memes and I post some news. On occasion, some news that we don't get to because it's not super relevant, or maybe it's like smaller stuff or updates, stuff that happens in the nerd world. Maybe I'll post something about Mortal Kombat. Who knows?
Nerd world.
Oh, my word. You get to see some of the teasers and the episodes we're going to be putting out in the future. Get some links. You get the hookups. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Go follow us on social media. Give us a clout. Please give us a clout. We're desperate.
I know hookups.
Oh, boy. I'm sure you don't.
Nope.
Yeah, and then tune in next week, and we'll talk about trench coats and fedoras.
And Nazis.
Do you think we should all wear trench coats and fedoras next week?
No.
Dude, that'd make for a great photo. It would look like a WoW convention. Or an anime expo. Or just any nerd convention, period.
Pretty much.
Yeah. Probably shouldn't attack our own kind.
Do not save that one.
But I want to. I hate you.
I know. I was getting my women mixed up.
Yeah, get your women straight. Get your bat femoids straight, my dude.
Do you shave the point between your eyebrows so
No.
you don't have a monobrow?
No. We support the Hong Kong protesters that are literally trying to not die right now. And then they're like, but also, we filmed right next to a Chinese concentration camp for Mulan. Oopsies.
I thought you were gay. I've been staring at your mouse, and I had a strong feeling, but I had to do research. It's the Guild Wars 2 logo.
I didn't know that. I feel like Resident Evil 8 is probably coming out for VR if it hasn't already.
I don't know.
I feel like there's a really big market for that.
Besides the fact that she dies in the first 2 hours.
What?
Yeah, at least that's what I heard from one of my favorite reviewers. They're
That's
like,
kind of lame.
it's sold on her, and they kill her off in like the first 2 hours.
Honestly, the balls. That's great.
Balls.
No, the balls on them to do that. Be like, yeah, no.
Oh, yeah,
what
yeah.
we want you to do is market it so we get all the horny dudes to buy it, and then
And then
all
we
get
kill it.
they all get blue balled, and then they still play it because they realize it's a good game. Yeah,
Yes.
legally speaking, we do not stand behind our own opinions.
Right.
We are
We can't do
we are
that.
a legally protected class,
Right.
being neckbeards.
2017.
Hey, it's your boy. I remember because it came out the same year as Assassin's Creed Origins. I don't know why. It's just one of those things. Like, they're just games that stick together in your brain.
We have talked a lot about games this episode.
That's
That's what happens when Colin's not here. Hey!
I covered all the bases with my hands.
You're still here? It's over. Go home.